The guilty verdict of Derek Chauvin for the murder of George Floyd offers a modicum of justice for Mr. Floyd's family and friends, our community, and our nation. The ongoing issue of institutionalized racism, discrimination, and law enforcement targeting Black people remains a grim reality that we must continue to recognize and confront. We are in solidarity and support of our Black students, colleagues, friends, and family members who are particularly impacted by targeted violence and its emotional aftermath. The verdict was an important milestone, but the real work lies ahead. Black Lives Matter.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us at the Bellevue College Learn, Engage, Invest Speaker Series. We would like to begin our evening with a land acknowledgement. We pause to acknowledge that Bellevue College resides on the traditional land of the Coast Salish peoples. That includes, but is not limited to, Snoqualmie, Squamish, Muckleshoot, and Tulalip peoples past and present. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish people past and present, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish tribe. We remember their connection to the region and recognize their suffering due to systemic oppression. We commit to using our education and agency to acknowledge injustice and work to make systemic change in support of Indigenous rights, including federal recognition of the Duwamish. I'm having some camera issues, so, but I'm just gonna keep going ahead. Welcome to the Learn, Engage, Invest Speaker Series. For the safety of our community and to do our part to slow the spread of COVID-19, we've decided to approach our annual fundraising event a little differently this year. While all the proceeds from the event will still support students and the Bellevue College community, we wanted to focus on big topics that impact students, higher education, and the East Side. Bellevue College is not a bubble, and we know that the students who pass through the institution each have their own story when they enter and will have their own impact when they leave. Thank you for joining us as we dive in with students, parents, alums, and experts in the community. My name is Dr. Jennifer Pang, and I'm the director of the Science and Math Institute here at the college, where we typically engage middle school and high school students in STEM experiences. That being said, we have all had to adapt to fit the unexpected and unprecedented circumstances of the past year. In my role at the college, that has meant helping faculty navigate the practicalities of using Zoom and Teams, as well as creating professional development opportunities for STEM faculty that focus on engagement and equity in the classroom. Adaptability has been a major theme over the past year, whether it is to school children at home, balancing how to work and eat at your dining room table, or attending events online, such as this, rather than in person. Thank you to the many individuals that have already made a gift in support of BC students. We appreciate you. For those of you who haven't, thank you for joining us, and we hope by the end of the evening, you'll consider making a gift as well. I want to take a moment to thank today's generous corporate partners. Their support plays an integral role in making this event and our larger work possible. My sincere gratitude goes to this year's signature partners, BECU and Overlake Hospital. We'll soon hear the stories from amazing alumni and community partners. There are so many stories like theirs at BC. Community colleges are especially good at adapting to new circumstances. Because there's no typical students, we pride ourselves on serving the diverse needs of our college community. Thank you so much for being here today, and it's now my pleasure to introduce Bellevue College's interim president and former Washington State Governor, Gary Locke.
Hi, I'm Gary Locke, interim president of Bellevue College, and I'm so excited to welcome you to night 2 of our Learn, Engage, Invest speaker series presented by the Bellevue College Foundation. These virtual events are a great opportunity to connect and build relationships while safely navigating the pandemic. And we have already learned so much facing such an enormous challenge. As a college and as a society, we've re-envisioned the way we learn and work by creating accessible online spaces, adapted quickly to meet the needs of those we serve, and relied on our shared community while deepening our understanding of the many ways we're all so connected. In our first night, we looked at accessibility. How can we make higher education more accessible to the diversity of our students, whether they're balancing work and family, are non-native speakers, or have neurodiversity challenges? The next 2 nights of this series, beginning tonight, we're taking a deeper dive into adaptability and community building with BC subject matter experts as well as experts from our greater Bellevue community. We hope you'll take away insights that you can apply to your own lives, but also share with others. As always, thank you for your continued support of our college, our students, and a better, more equitable future for our entire community. Tonight, we turn our focus to the subject of adaptability, a quality we have all come to really appreciate so much more. How is the college adapting to an ever-changing landscape? How are we addressing the needs of students, both traditional and non-traditional, who are also having to adapt to the new ways in which their education is being delivered? And what have we learned about adaptability that we can apply to new challenges moving forward? Our guide in tonight's discussion is Dr. Jennifer Pang, Director of BC's Science and Math Institute, which helps spark a love of STEM by providing engaging programs and activities for 5th to 8th grade students. Wow, if we had known Dr. Pang a few years ago, our family could have really used her expertise and programs to help with our daughter's dislike of math. Dr. Pang will be joined by Surace-Smith, a BC alum who started out at a different institution, transferred to BC, and then successfully transferred on to NYU. Kathy Surace-Smith, Julia's mother. Kathy is Senior Vice President of Human Resources and Legal Affairs at NanoString Technologies. And Quiniece Hubbard, a current BC student who's already earned an associate degree in molecular biosciences, but is now pursuing a bachelor's degree with a goal to become a naturopathic doctor and licensed midwife. So without further ado, let's turn this over to Dr. Pang.
Welcome back. Now I'd like to welcome our speakers tonight. Kathy Surace-Smith is the parent of BC alum Surace-Smith and Senior Vice President of Human Resources and Legal Affairs at NanoString Technologies. She also serves in Bellevue College's Budget Stakeholder Group. Surace-Smith is a BC alum. Julia started college in California, but decided to come back to Bellevue and enroll in BC to earn her associate's degree. She has since transferred to NYU and is currently working toward her BA in digital media.
2017.
It is my honor to welcome Kathy Surace-Smith.
Hi, I'm Surace-Smith, and I graduated from BC with an AA in Arts and Sciences in 2017.
Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Surace-Smith and I'm Julia's mom. We're going to turn it over to Julia now. So Julia, tell us about your college journey.
Okay, so I started college when I was 19 after taking a gap year. By the end of high school, I experienced a lot of academic burnout, which is actually why I took the gap year. But then I went on to pursue the traditional 4-year university path. I moved down to Southern California to attend University of Redlands. And I didn't quite know what I was doing, as most 19-year-olds don't know yet what they want to do. And I continued to experience a lot of academic burnout while struggling with my mental health. So I found throughout that freshman year that I wasn't able to invest in my academics the way I wanted to, partly because I just wasn't ready, but also because I wasn't fully stabilized from a health perspective. So I ended up withdrawing at the end of my freshman year. I came home, I moved back in with my parents, which is the 19-year-old dream, obviously. And I remember one night I was talking with my parents of just this big question of like, what am I doing? Which is a really fun existential question. And I just asked them, well, what if I went to BC and started getting credits? And then I figured I would maybe go back to Redlands or transfer somewhere else. I ended up getting my AA there, as I mentioned earlier. And I graduated in 2017. I took some time off again from school. And then in 2020, I started at New York University, majoring in digital communications and media. So I've been doing that remotely for almost 2 semesters.
What was it about BC that appealed to you? Why BC?
There were a couple things that appealed to me. I felt like BC could meet me where I was at and allow me to start exploring school again while focusing on my health. So it would let me keep living at home with my parents. It was only 15 minutes away. And I knew that BC offered a very wide array of subjects. So I could kind of just start cherry picking things and kind of dip my foot back into the academic world.
How did BC meet your needs?
BC met my needs in 3 different ways. The first way was that it was incredibly easy to make sure I was getting the right credits once I actually committed to getting the AA. I was never just like thrown to the wolves with that. I always got a third opinion from an advisor that was extremely accessible to me, and they made it really clear what path I had to take in order to get the AA when I wanted. The second way was that I had a really wide array of courses to choose from. So not only did I get like Gen Ed's requirements done, which is fantastic because now I can just focus on my major at NYU. I was also given just such a buffet of elective courses just handed to me on a silver platter for just like, do whatever you want. It'll all fill the requirements. So I started exploring different things. And I got really into sociology during the time. Those were always my favorite classes, and I was able to easily add those to my curriculum. The third way is that I was able to find some new community in my hometown and learn from people that, like me, were not taking such a traditional path. So maybe they had started one way and then veered away from that, or they just were doing something different from the start. So I got to meet a lot of people that were doing something interesting, and that just helped me immensely.
Is there one moment you want to share, or is there a particular class or instructor you want to mention?
Yes. So I think my second quarter at BC, I took a women's studies course. And I was very excited to take that. I always knew, even as a high schooler, that I would like to take something like that. And I remember the first day, this man walked in who was our professor, and he just had so much energy, so much apparent passion, just oodles of charisma, basically. And I was really excited to start the journey of the course with him. And towards the end of the class session, he disclosed to us that he was really excited to be teaching the course to us this quarter, but he was also very nervous because it was his first quarter teaching the women's studies course since he had transitioned from female to male. And I just remember feeling so touched by that he would disclose something highly vulnerable to us. Like, he didn't know us. We were strangers, effectively. You can definitely assume certain things about a women's studies student, but you don't know how a random person is going to react to that kind of disclosure. So he really set the stage for us to be vulnerable within that class. And that class was characterized by a high amount of sharing our personal experiences within the context of academic texts and academic facts. So I've never had an experience like that before or since, and it was just very powerful.
What is your overall feeling about Bellevue College?
Positive. No, I'm proud to have gone to BC. I don't think I would be doing what I'm doing if I had not spent my time at BC. I think it was a very unique time in my life when I was a student there, where I could have kind of, you know, when you're living at home and you're just not sure what to do with yourself, that you can kind of diverge. It could have gotten worse or it could have gotten better. And I think because I chose to spend my time at BC while also receiving mental health care on my own, everything just got immensely better.
What would you recommend to people like you in similar situations?
My recommendation for anyone who, you know, I think culturally we have an obsession with just getting to from point A to point B as fast as possible. And in this context, point A is high school, point B is college. If you find yourself going more like A, Z, Q, L, B, like I did, my advice would be to lean into that and embrace it. It's going to feel a bit chaotic and at times even devastating. You may question why you were not able to just go to A to B like your peers maybe can. But going all over the place in a sense will end up being an asset to you and a strength. And it's always going to strengthen you that you maybe took a non-traditional path or had to pivot somewhere in your journey. And you'll actually find it to be an edge that you have over other people.
Okay, last question. When and how did you feel ready to take the next step to go to NYU?
I felt ready after I had been working for a few years. I spent time working in childcare as a nanny. And I did really love building Legos and choreographing dances with an 11-year-old. But I also found myself missing the more intellectual challenge that I experienced at BC. So I felt that I was ready to return to school. And I felt so confident in my academic abilities after excelling at BC. I don't think in high school I would have even applied to NYU because I would have just assumed they wouldn't be interested in admitting me. But after I learned at BC that like, oh, I can retain information from a class and do well with it and contribute, I felt like, yeah, why wouldn't NYU want to add me to their network? I would be a great addition. So yeah, when I was able to have that attitude, I knew I was ready to go back to school.
Okay, what is the difference between your previous institution and Bellevue College? Tell me some differences.
Okay, yeah. The biggest difference between my previous schools and BC is a sense of like actual lived diversity. Before I went to BC, I don't think I had ever had an African American teacher or professor, which is obviously unacceptable, but that was the reality of the school that I came from. So I remember really loving just having a more diverse pool of professors to learn from. I was able to learn from people with many backgrounds. I had professors who had emigrated to the US. I had professors of different gender identities, professors from a variety of backgrounds. I also had a lot of students from a variety of backgrounds. And I firmly believe that the more diverse a classroom is, the stronger the academic experience will be. And I think BC actually lives that, whereas like every school is gonna have that on their website. But is that actually reflected in their classrooms? Not necessarily. So that was just so valuable for me to learn from all sorts of students, people around my age, people of different age, people not from here, people from other countries, socioeconomic backgrounds, just everything. Hi, Mom.
Hi.
What was it like to watch your child need to pivot?
Well, I think it's hard for any parent to see their child struggle. Julia went through some tough years there where she was struggling with her mental health, struggling with, at that age, at 19, 18, 19, trying to become an independent person, trying to find her own identity, her own interests. So it was hard to see her struggle. We were really proud of her when she decided to go back to school. We were afraid that maybe she had lost interest, but I could see that she really needed the intellectual stimulation. So it was hard to see her struggle, but once she made the pivot and the commitment, it was fantastic to see her flower at BC. She really engaged in her education in a way that we hadn't seen before.
Next question. What were your perceptions of BC before, and how did you find the reality?
I have to say, I mean, BC's in our backyard, but the community that that the kids went to school in, the community we live in, our friends are all focused on four-year colleges. So I knew about this institution. I knew it was well respected. I knew it served thousands and thousands of students, but I really didn't spend a lot of time thinking about it because we were very focused on four-year colleges. Once Julia started going there, I started really appreciating the values of the school, the diversity and inclusion of students anywhere from kids in high school and Running Start to parents, working parents who have decided to change careers and enhance their credentials so they could get a better job. And I love that about it. I love that Julia was being exposed to people in all different stages of life, in all different, coming from different places, and in different, different lifestyles and different backgrounds. So I'd say I went from kind of just a person who didn't know much to being a real fan of the place and really valuing what Julia took away from it individually, but also what it offers to so many students in our community, and from abroad, because there's a number of people who come from far away to attend Bellevue College.
What would you recommend for parents like you in a similar situation?
I would say that we need to listen more to our children. I'd say that when Julia wanted to leave her four-year school, we were very resistant to that because we were, withdrawing from school. You make this huge investment, and then to withdraw felt very scary to her, obviously, but also to us. We worried about her getting off track. But honestly, sometimes that's the best thing that can happen to our kids, that their instincts tell them they need something different, and they should be, we should follow that instinct. It turned out to be the right thing for Julia, to pivot and to do something different than all of her peers. So I would say that as parents, listening, understanding, being there to guide, but also at some point being less directional as your kids get older is probably the advice I would give. And being supportive of their choices. Of course, there's some choices hard to support, but in retrospect, I'm glad we did support this decision for Julia to enroll at BC, re-engage with intellectual pursuit, and then find her footing and her timing, what made sense for her, rather than sticking to, the template that everyone else was following.
Okay.
We thought you'd get a kick out of this.
We want to show my picture from graduation. It's the only real graduation I've ever had, so I'm very, very proud of this moment. And I didn't trip on stage, and I did graduate with highest honors, so.
Yes.
I'm very happy about that.
Yes, we love this photo. Well, thanks for spending some time with us. Bye-bye, good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kathy and Julia. Next, we're honored to hear from Quiniece Hubbard, a current BC student who has already earned her associate's degree in molecular bioscience. She's currently pursuing her bachelor's with the goal of becoming a licensed midwife or working in naturopathic medicine. Quiniece is a non-traditional student who came to Bellevue College as a returning adult with a family of her own. Take it away, Quiniece.
Hi, my name is Quiniece Hubbard. I'm a molecular biosciences major. I started attending BC in 2017. I was attending another college at first. I was doing the nursing program and later on decided that I wanted to pursue a career in medicine and get a degree in medicine. So I decided that I needed to switch to another college, which ended up being BC, because they offered more of the courses that I needed to pursue the career path that I wanted to pursue. It was in 2017 when I came to BC, I discovered that I didn't know as much as I thought I knew. All I really knew was how to sign up for classes, how to go to class, and how to work Canvas. And so one of the first classes that I signed up for was an HD class, which is a weekend class. At the time, the instructor was Barb Brodsky, who is the director of the Trill Student Services Program. And she introduced herself to me, and she also introduced Trill Student Services to me. And it was at Trill that I learned some of the resources, learned a little bit more about financial aid, learned where the tutoring center was, learned how to sign up for tutoring and about the math lab and different services that BC offered. And later on found out about a college fair that was going on where there would be universities there. It was upon that time that I went to the college fair and ran into someone from admissions, an advisor for Bastyr University. And that is when I knew I would go to Bastyr to pursue a career in naturopathy. And I was so excited because I knew I was on the right track as far as courses, but later on discovered that I would need to go a little bit further and found out about the molecular biosciences program and learned that I love science. And so I was on the right path. And from there, I began to take courses with the molecular biosciences program. I graduated last year in spring and got my associate's degree for molecular sciences technician. I have been mentoring other students while being a part of Trill student programs and have continued on and am now taking the bachelor's portion of the molecular biosciences program. I decided to make the switch to BC, which was a good choice and a good fit for me. And from there, I have discovered the BC Foundation, who gives scholarships to students like myself to be able to have to work less outside of class, and I can work more in the classroom and focus on my studies without having to be as stressed out, because there are people who are sponsoring us and giving us scholarships. I'm so glad that we do have the foundation and we do have those who are willing to be sponsors to give students like us an opportunity to be able to choose a career, to be able to take the courses that we need, and then to eventually be able to go into the career that we have decided that we wanted to go into, and then reach back to help another college student. So I wanted to say thank you for that. I will continue on in the future with going on to Bastyr University. I think I may just pursue midwifery. My passion is truly for women who are Black women, and particularly them because they die at a higher rate during childbirth, and because of personal experiences with a couple of family members and a really close friend and them having issues during childbirth, it has made me want to be able to help them advocate for themselves, to have someone that truly represents them in that field and who can walk through the whole birthing process with them, and just to be there for them and to really just understand the women's body, understand what they need, see the children grow, because watching women give birth and coming through for prenatal care and stuff, I'm sure that will be something that will happen. And so I'm looking forward to that in the future. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to seeing your faces at this event.
Welcome back. Thank you, Quiniece. And I happen to teach in molecular biosciences, so I'm super excited to have Quiniece in class in the near future. We welcome Kathy, Julia, and Quiniece back to our stage for a live question and answer session. Audience, please feel free to add your questions to the Q&A box, which I think is at the bottom of your screen, and submit your questions that we can ask our panelists. We do have a few questions that were submitted early, but we do encourage you to submit your own questions. Okay, so to start out, what skill set did you have to rely on or need to develop that you weren't expecting as part of your student experience? And I think we'll go to Julia and then Quiniece for this one.
Sure. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. What skill set did you have to rely on or need to develop that you weren't expecting as part of your student experience?
I think something I had to work on personally was just managing both schoolwork and mental health. Perhaps I should have expected that, but that was just something I was still working on as a neurodivergent student. So it's something that BC, being in my home community, allowed me to keep living with my parents and see a provider and go to school at the same time. So I think through that, I was able to develop more skills with my health, and then also time management and executive functioning skills.
Thanks, Julia. Quiniece?
I would have to say teamwork and learning how to work with other people. I spent a lot of the time by myself in the beginning of me going to college. I mentioned before I went to another college. I went to Renton Technical College. There were some people that I spent time with, but I did most of my studying alone. And I recognized when I started at a bigger institution that was something that would not work for me. And so I had to learn how to work with others and really network with people to understand the material of the classes that I was studying in.
Thanks. How about, so you both attended other institutions before BC. What attracted you to those colleges, and did those attractions hold true once you started attending?
I can answer that first. It's a great question. I was attracted to one. I was really motivated to leave Washington State, which now as an older adult, I'm like, why did I want to do that? Like, it's amazing here. But I was really motivated to get to Southern California specifically. So location was one. But apart from that, I think I was in search of that traditional 4-year freshman dorm on campus experience, which ended up not being at all right for me. And now, as I am a returning non-traditional bachelor's student at NYU, that's working a lot better for me, not pursuing such a traditional path. So I think what I thought would work and what drew me to school in California just wasn't quite the right fit.
And honestly, I just wanted to get started. I am a first generation college student, and so I didn't get a chance to engage with family members and have anyone to tell me what college was really like. And so I just kind of was newlywed and moved into the Renton area, and that was the decision for me choosing the school that I went to. And then later on, upon looking at BC and looking at the difference in courses, I discovered that was not a good fit for me.
Thanks so much, both of you. And it sounds like you are both very involved with your families. How were your families a part of your decision in choosing a college? And then how did they influence your experience once you got going?
I can answer that one first.
Okay.
So I had the opportunity to go back to college where one of my cousins did end up going. So I did mention BC to her, and I started out BC with I call her my sister friends. And so we decided that since BC had some of the courses I wanted and they had some of the courses that she needed to take, that we would go together. And my family just wanted me to make a choice, my husband particularly, because he wanted me to, because sometimes I can be indecisive in some of the things that I do. But he was just like, look, if you go to BC, I'm there. And the funny thing was, he ended up working there at the college for the Early Learning Center. And so it was just, everything just kind of fell into place as far as us being able to commute and travel and really just having someone there to support me. Because when I went to Renton Technical College, it was a little bit depressing, if I could just be honest, because I didn't understand what would be required of me. And like I said, I spent a lot of time by myself. And this time I was able to go with someone else. And it just gave me a little bit more confidence. And my husband, I would have to say he's the one that really pushed me into choosing going to the school that BC, where I am now.
For my story, I look at my mom and have to make fun of her a little bit because I think when I was 19 and starting my college journey, I think I felt a sense of obligation to do the traditional path, which looking back, I wish I had known myself a little better at the time, but you know, you're 19, you're figuring it out. And then when I decided to pivot and go to BC, my parents and my brother were super supportive, really excited for me to, because I had kind of lost my passion for school along the way. I just lost my love for learning. So BC for me represented getting that love back. And I do relate to Quiniece, what you're saying of like wanting you to make a choice, because I did spend some time pivoting around, trying different things. So there was a lot of excitement when I started making those decisive choices on my own.
Thanks. Hey, I was actually curious, Kathy, about could you see the shift in Julia when she started coming to Bellevue College, or I was just kind of wondering what it was like to be witnessing your child kind of struggling and then maybe finding her footing.
Yeah, definitely saw a shift. I mean, I think it was because it was her choice as opposed to a choice that she felt obligated to make. So I noticed when she went to her four-year college in California, there wasn't the enthusiasm around learning. It was just kind of drudgery. When she took some time off, came back, and then it was her idea to start at BC. She was energized. She was reanimated by the intellectual stimulation, and she. And it was just that desire for knowledge and we just love seeing that. I'd say the atmosphere at BC, was the right fit for her, for sure.
Thanks. We have a question from the audience, and I believe this is for Quiniece. Outside of your husband, who gave you the most support and most encouragement to stay in school and succeed?
So honestly, I would have to say can you repeat the question? Because I'm trying to understand it, make sure I understand it.
Yeah, aside from your husband, who else gave you the most encouragement and support to go back to school and succeed?
So I am really big in faith, and I go to church, and I have a really good support group at church. And I, was pouting and having my moments with God. And he, I really believe that prayer and having a support group through my church family helped me get there. And just honestly, I believe I remember, so I didn't go on traditional my whole life. I went to an alternative high school there in Bellevue, which was at the time Robbinswood High School. And I remember I would come to BC to visit every now and again. And so I think the combination of all of those things really just encouraged me to just keep moving forward and to make the decision that I did. I have other people that, go to really work at BC. I have a sister friend who works at the Early Learning Center. and a few other people. So just having that community being there, her name is Karen, just having that community being there and knowing that I would be able to, lean on and cry on a shoulder if I didn't make it all the time, that really just encouraged me, along with some of the advisors that I met along the way.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
I'm going to start with Julia here. What surprised you about BC? And then we'll go to Quiniece.
What surprised me is the amount of extracurricular and community activities and the way the community was thriving. I always had this sense of, like commuter schools where people don't live on campus maybe have less of active extracurriculars. And that was not the case at all. So it was great to see such a thriving student life in terms of clubs, engagement in classes, just that surprised me in a great way. And I was happy to see that and get involved with that.
So I would have to say the thing that surprised me about BC was just the support that I got. Like I said, I went to another college and I didn't get a lot of support, and I didn't feel like there was really a community there. And so I was shocked at how many of the services were available, how many people were willing to listen, how your professors were willing to work with you, how there was the extra tutoring there was after-hour tutoring, there were just all of these different things that were there just to encourage you to keep going. And so that was one of the things that shocked me. And I would have to say just being able to meet other students from different backgrounds and not being the only one that's there from the different background, because before I kind of felt like I stuck out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, I agree with what you said about support. At my previous institution, I felt like I was kind of thrown to the wolves in terms of like, yeah, you'll figure it out, you'll get the credits. But then when I started at BC, I felt like there was a lot more guidance in making sure I actually every quarter got what I needed for the AA. And there were so many resources for us.
Kathy, what about you? Did you find anything surprising about Julia's experience at BC?
I don't know if it's surprising, but I was very impressed by the quality of the teaching that she got. These are people who, some people are full-time and some are not full-time teachers at BC. And they were uniformly pretty, my impression from Julia, uniformly very strong and very engaged with their students. And Julia could reach out and connect with them. I mean, they were very responsive. And so I think they really invested in being educators, whether they were full-time or not, or part-time educators. And that was great to see, because I agree with Julia, at her four-year institution, sometimes there was just no response when she would reach out.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. We have two very similar questions. There's expression of gratitude for sharing your stories. And then do you have any advice for new and future students about how to make the most of their BC experience?
Yes, I would definitely say for those who are first generation college students off top to join Trail Student Services. They were, like I said, they were a big help. Honestly, they gave me a lot of confidence to do a lot of the classes and attend a lot of the classes and workshops and be able to reach out to other students, form study groups and things like that. Also making sure that you are networking, getting to know people, getting to know your professors, getting to know what clubs you can be involved in, getting to know what things are going on as far as events and things like that, so you can stay connected and meet new people while you're there. When you try to go at things all by yourself, it can be a lonely place, and there are really people who are willing to help you along the way. And I just wanted to encourage the next student to just make sure you just get involved as much as you can.
My advice.
What about you?
Yeah, my advice would be, don't be afraid to ask for help and don't be afraid to communicate. I was often scared to communicate with professors when I was struggling. If I needed an extension or needed to communicate something that was going on that was going to affect my academic performance. And I just kind of started pushing myself to do that while I was at BC. And every time my professors were so willing to work with me, as long as I was just honest and willing to express that I might need to adapt a little bit to complete things. So yeah, my advice would be send those emails, go to those office hours, let them know what's going on. Don't be afraid to knock on the door multiple times, whether that's digitally now or in person later.
As someone who teaches, I really appreciate both of your sentiments. The faculty here at BC are here because they want to teach, and that definitely comes through. We have another question. If you had the option to do it again, would you have chosen BC as a good starting point rather than trying your other school choices first? If so, why or why not?
So honestly, I don't ever really think about being able to go back and do things again. I think it's all a part of your experience. I think it is something that will help you catapult into the next place in which you need to be. It gives you a story to share with other people. Like it was mentioned in the question before, what advice would you be able to give to a new student at BC if they were to come? So I think that would just be the catalyst to help other people. And so I don't think I would do anything differently from what has already been done. I would just continue to move forward and just know that no matter what, later on, if you decide to choose a different career path, all you have to do is have confidence and continue to be determined, and you will be able to achieve whatever goes before you.
I love that attitude. I think that's the perfect way to look at it. And I do often wish that I had started at BC from the start. So I think my answer is I'm grateful that I had to go through that experience of changing my path, because I think it will serve me in the long run, because I'm sure I'll, have to pivot again. That's life. We've all had to pivot in the pandemic. But I do think it's a really smart thing to start at BC from the start, especially if maybe you have a specific major later on that you want to focus on. If you get that AA first, you can take care of all the gen ed requirements that are expensive to take at other universities, if that's what you end up doing.
Let's see. All colleges talk up the resources they offer to help all students be successful. Is that the reality? Either one of you. We both have experiences with different institutions, not just our college, but other ones as well.
I'll let you go first, Julia.
That was not my experience at Redlands down in California. But granted, I will put the disclaimer that I wasn't as engaged of a student as I am, as I was at BC and as I am today. So I had less confidence with advocating for myself. But I did struggle with finding resources when I was at that school. At my current school, I have had a good experience finding resources. And I think BC taught me how to find them, because no one really sits you down on the first day and teaches you how to work the website or how, what department to go to in what area of admin. It's really confusing. So I think the structure at BC kind of trained me who to ask for help.
So I would have to
go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead. I'll wait.
I was just going to say that navigating college is a whole, set of obstacles in itself. So I'm glad to hear that experience was good. Go ahead, Quiniece, sorry.
It is. It definitely is not the easiest to navigate. Like I said, especially if you never had anyone to really go before you or really share their experience with you. So I would have to say the other college that I attended did not have the resources that it talked about. If it was there, I wasn't aware of it because it wasn't shown to me. And like I said before, coming to BC, I was shown a lot more, not just through TRIO Student Services. I'm grateful that if you are attending a class or going to the tutoring center or something like that, there is always advertisement of what events are being held so you can know what's going on in the school. If there's scholarships going on, there's a posting there, there's stuff on the website, there's word of mouth. So there's just a lot more that goes into it. So I would have to say that I learned a lot more at BC, and they have great resources.
And then I think I'll have this as our last question. Is there a staff person, faculty, and or fellow student in particular that really helped you during your time at BC?
Yes, I can mention first. My professor, Croy Saffin, was incredibly helpful for me, and he wrote me a recommendation for later on when I started transferring, and he set a great example for how an educator can engage with their students. And I also had some friends who were attending that I think are watching right now that helped me. And of course, my parents and my brother.
So I said before, the staff or faculty that's impacted me most has been Barbara Brodsky, and I call her Barb, and also Lena. Zach Yusuf at the time was part of the TRIO staff. And so they all really helped me a lot. I took essays to them. I took, math to them, and they worked together to help accommodate me. And then when they couldn't help me along the way or were not available, they referred me to other students who were there who could help me. And when I say there, in the TRIO student lab, and it made sure that we were introduced to one another so we could network on our own. And so that is something that will always stick with me. Their doors were always open when I had questions, when I didn't know where to go, and even when I had personal issues and I was in a place where I needed to talk to someone. They talked to me and they took the time to truly just listen at the times where I needed it most.
I'm so glad to hear that you both got good support people at the college. Thank you to Kathy, Julia, and Quiniece for sharing your stories and experiences. We're now going to go and hear from one of our student scholars.
Hi, I'm Nora. I am an interior design student at Bellevue College in my 4th year, and I'm the recipient of the Spencer DeMille Interior Design Scholarship. Being able to be the recipient of this scholarship means a lot to me for a lot of different reasons. One of them being that as a younger person, I struggled in school. So coming back as an adult student, I was a little daunted. But I've worked hard and it feels like a real milestone to be able to be chosen for something like the scholarship. On top of that, this is the first major debt that I will have taken on in my life. Being able to have the scholarship means that I won't have as much debt to worry about, which is really important, especially in this year, as I am 5 months pregnant right now. My partner and I are starting a family, and to not have to worry about that extra debt is really huge for us. I think at Bellevue College, we're really lucky to have the interior design program that we have. I have a background in apparel design and manufacture, and it wasn't until I came to Bellevue College that I really started to see gaps being filled that gave me a more comprehensive understanding of design in general, why we do what we do, what makes something work, why wouldn't it work. We have a lot of dialogue about what works and what doesn't work. In particular, I've had Mark Mapala as my professor multiple times. I look forward to having him again as my capstone professor. And he has always brought such a good energy to all of the classes I've had with him. And he's offered a sort of mentorship that I've been looking for a long time. He always pushes you to go just a little bit farther and, you know, see what you can find there. And I feel really lucky to be able to be his student. It makes me see how design is kind of an ever-growing process. You're always learning from every new thing. I just want to thank the donors for the Spencer DeMille Interior Design Scholarship for making this investment in me. It's not the case for everybody, but I feel like because of programs like this and scholarships like this, you know, I'm going to be able to have a career that I can grow continuously, creatively, because of, you know, everybody doesn't get to do what they love to do for their job, but I feel like, you know, I feel so lucky to be able to be in the position that I'm in. So thank you. Support future BC students. Please give today.
We had a wonderful comment that I think captures a lot of how we're feeling. Thank you for both being great examples of strong BC students, strong women, and strong presenters. It's really been an honor to share space with you, our audience, and our speakers today. A big thank you to our amazing women panelists, Kathy Surace-Smith, Julia Smith, and Quiniece Hubbard, for joining us and sharing your stories. Thank you also to the many individuals that have already made a gift in support of BC students. And for those of you who haven't, we're glad you could join us tonight and hope you'll consider making a gift as well. On behalf of the Bellevue College Foundation, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to each and every one of you for your time and support. We hope you join us tomorrow night as we discuss community building and healthcare. Thank you and good night.